Hi all my dear students. I am Mrs. Anju Ayer, Vice Principal, Josco College of Nursing. Today our topic of discussion is growth hormone deficiency. Before getting to the topic, let me summarize what we will be discussing today. This is overview slide. Today we will be discussing about introduction, meaning, overview of anatomy. Then we will be move on incidence, etiology, pathophysiology, clinical features, diagnostic evaluation, management and prognosis of growth hormone deficiency. So let's start with introduction. Growth hormone deficiency is the most common pituitary hormone deficiency in children, and this can be isolated or accompanied by deficiency of other pituitary hormones. Growth hormone deficiency typically results in abnormally slow growth and short stature with normal body proportions. So let's move on. Meaning of growth hormone deficiency. Growth hormone deficiency, also known as dwarfism, pituitary dwarfism, or hypopituitarism, is a rare disorder characterized by insufficient amounts of growth hormone from the anterior pituitary gland. That is, there is only insufficient or inadequate secretion of growth hormone from anterior pituitary gland. Now we can see about growth hormone. What are the functions of growth hormone and from where it is producing? Growth hormone, also known as human growth hormone, and it is a peptide hormone. It stimulates growth, cell reproduction, cell regeneration in human and other animals. That it causes growth of almost all tissues of the body that are capable of growing. So it is so important in human development. And the level of growth hormone rise progressively during childhood and peak during the puberty period. From this picture, we can see the functions of growth hormone. That is, it helps in development of brain, heart, blood vessels, ovary, testicles, intestine, kidney, muscles, bones and cartilage, liver, and spinal roots and peripheral nerves. So it helps in growth of almost all tissues of the body. Now we can see just an overview of pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is commonly referred to as the master gland. Why it is master gland? Because of its role in regulating other endocrine glands. And it lies at the base of the brain, and it is divided into two parts, that is anterior lobe and posterior lobe. The anterior pituitary lobe is larger than posterior lobe, and this anterior pituitary lobe constitutes about 75 to 80% of the pituitary gland. Now we can see the hormones produced by anterior and posterior lobe of pituitary gland. The anterior lobe of the pituitary gland is producing mainly 7 hormones. It includes ACTH, that is adrenocorticotropic hormone, then MSH, that is melanocyte stimulating hormone, then GH, that is growth hormone, then TSH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone, then gonadotropics. It include two hormones, that is luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. The last one, prolactin. These are the 7 hormones produced by anterior lobe of the pituitary gland, and the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland is producing oxytocin and stores ADH. ADH is produced by hypothalamus. Normally, the synthesis of growth hormone is regulated by hypothalamus, and which releases two separate hormones. That is, first one, growth hormone releasing hormone and growth hormone release inhibiting hormone. It is otherwise known as somatostatin. Under the influence of secretions from the hypothalamus, the anterior lobe of pituitary releases or withholds its hormone. So from this we can understand that the relationship between the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. If there is any disease or malformations of the hypothalamus or pituitary gland results in deficiency of growth hormone. Okay, what this picture depicts? It clearly depicts the importance of growth hormone in our body. The effects of right amount of growth hormone and too little growth hormone and too much of growth hormone. Okay. Now we can see about etiological factors responsible for growth hormone deficiency. There are two etiological factors are there. First one, congenital causes and acquired causes. The congenital causes are genetic defect, then multiple pituitary deficiency, then idiopathic growth hormone releasing hormone deficiency and developmental defects. First one, genetic defects. Genetic defects means it is an inherited condition caused by any DNA abnormality. Then multiple pituitary deficiency. Then third one, idiopathic growth hormone releasing hormone deficiency. Here the growth hormone is not releasing properly. Then last one, developmental defects. The developmental defects includes pituitary aplasia or hypoplasia, then anencephaly and midfacial anomalies. Then what do you mean by pituitary aplasia? That is the pituitary gland is failure to develop or to function normally. Then hypoplasia. Hypoplasia means underdevelopment of the pituitary gland. The next one, anencephaly. Anencephaly means it is a serious birth defect in which a baby is born without the parts of brain and skull. That is absence of brain and skull. The last one, midfacial anomalies. These are the developmental defects. I will tell once more. The developmental defects includes pituitary aplasia, hypoplasia, anencephaly, and midfacial anomalies. So these are the congenital causes of growth hormone deficiency. Then acquired causes. The acquired causes are tumors, irradiation, infections, infiltrations, injury, and vascular causes. Now we can see one by one in detail. First one, tumors. Tumors means any pituitary tumor or hypothalamic tumor or any other intracranial tumors. Next one, irradiation. That is irradiation to the brain. Then infections. The main infections which causes insult to the pituitary gland is meningitis, encephalitis, tuberculosis, and toxoplasmosis. I think all of you familiar with meningitis, encephalitis, and tuberculosis. And what do you mean by toxoplasmosis? The toxoplasmosis is a disease that results from infection with the Toxoplasma gondii. It is a parasite. We can see this parasite in cat feces and in undercooked meat. So these infections may get insult to the pituitary gland and later it cause decreased production of growth hormone. Then infiltrations. What do you mean by infiltrations? Infiltration means it is the accumulation of foreign substances in an excess amount in an organ and later it causes damage or destruction to the particular organ or tissues. Then the main infiltrations which causes damage to the pituitary glands are histiocytosis, then sarcoidosis and hemochromatosis. And what do you mean by histiocytosis? Histiocytosis means a group of rare disorders in which too many histiocytes, that is a type of WBC, build up in certain tissues and organs, and this can cause damage to the tissues. The next one, sarcoidosis. What do you mean by sarcoidosis? Sarcoidosis means it is an inflammatory disease that affects multiple organs in our body. It is the abnormal collection of inflammatory cells in an organ. The last one, hemochromatosis. What do you mean by hemochromatosis? It is a disease in which too much of iron builds up in our body. That is iron overload. It is an inherited disorder and here there is excessive accumulation of iron in the body and it damages the organ. Next etiology is injury. That is injury to the pituitary gland is by any breech position, head injury, and any surgery to the head or brain. In all these cases, sometimes it causes any insult or injury to the pituitary gland. And what do you mean by breech presentation or breech baby? In breech presentation means the presenting part of the baby is the buttocks or feet instead of normal head. Next is vascular causes. The vascular causes includes aneurysm and cerebral infarctions. What do you mean by aneurysm? Aneurysm means it is the enlargement of an artery caused by weakness in the arterial wall. Here, the main artery supplying to the pituitary gland is hypophyseal artery. If there is any aneurysm to the particular artery, there is decreased blood supply to the particular organ and cause deficiency in the production of hormones. The next one, cerebral infarction. What do you mean by infarction? Infarction means obstruction of blood supply to an organ or region of tissue because of thrombus or embolism. And because of this, there is local death of the tissue. So these are the vascular causes, that is aneurysm and cerebral infarctions. Now we will be move on pathophysiology behind growth hormone deficiency. I think all of you know about the relationship between pituitary gland and hypothalamus. Okay, because of any of the cause, there is pituitary gland inability. That is, the pituitary gland is unable to respond to growth hormone releasing hormone by hypothalamus. Because of this, it results in deficient growth hormone or deficient secretion of growth hormone. And because of deficient secretion of growth hormone, it affects growth and results in short stature. This is about pathophysiology. Next, we will be move on clinical features. The main clinical features are the first one, short stature. What do you mean by short stature? Short stature means here the height is considerably below average when we are comparing to the height of the children of the same age. This is a short stature. Then these children have normal growth at birth, and also the growth retardation becomes apparent around only at the age of 1 year. Then doll-like face, that is the facial appearance is doll-like, and these children look much younger than actual age because of their face is looks like a doll. Then well nourished, they are all well nourished. Then inactive, then delayed permanent teeth eruption. Usually the primary teeth appear at expected age, but the eruption of permanent teeth delayed. The teeth overcrowded and malpositioned. This is because of the underdeveloped jaw. Then delayed sexual development. Delayed sexual development and small genitals in these children is because of gonadotropin deficiency. Then in case of newborns, there may be chance for hypoglycemic seizures because of the deficiency of ACTH, that is adrenocorticotropic hormones. Then height may be retarded more than weight, and body proportions are normal in these children. Body proportions means the ratio between lower segment and upper segment is normal in these children. Now we can see some of the common features we can see in these children. That is first one, mid-facial crowding. What do you mean by mid-facial crowding? Mid-facial crowding means the center of the face develops more slowly than the eyes, forehead, and lower jaw. This is mid-facial crowding. Then they have depressed nasal bridge, then round faces, then mild obesity. Here they have always truncal obesity. We can see truncal obesity in these children because of the increased fat in the trunk area. Then there is single central incisor tooth in these children. Next, we will be move on diagnostic evaluations. The diagnostic evaluations include history, assessment, MRI of brain, growth hormone levels, and radiographic examinations. The history include history of the child's growth pattern, then previous health status, then physical examination findings, then any drug intake, then parental heights, birth birth size, etc. The next one, assessment. Assessment includes anthropometric measurements, then MRI of brain, then estimation of growth hormone levels, then last one, radiographic examinations. The radiographic examination is an important procedure for evaluating the growth of the baby. Next, we will be move on management. The management includes first one, treatment of underlying cause. That is, we already discussed so many etiological factors. If there is any tumors and all, we can remove it. Then next one, adequate nutrition. First one, general measures. General measures include diet, physical activity, zinc supplementation, and correction of iron and vitamin deficiencies. Diet, that is, advise the patient to take diet which is rich in protein and caloric content. Then physical activity, encourage the patient to improve and increase their physical activity. Then zinc supplementation at a dose of 10 mg per day for 3 to 6 months. Then if there is any iron and vitamin deficiencies, we have to correct it by administering iron and vitamin supplements or by advising to take iron and vitamin rich food. Next one, the specific therapy that includes growth hormone therapy. This is highly effective in growth hormone deficiency, and this can result in an increase in height by 20 to 30 centimeter, and this growth hormone treatment is given during night as injections, that is subcutaneous injections we are giving, and the dose is 25 to 30 micrograms uh, per kg per day, and this treatment is very expensive. Then we will be moving on prognosis. Prognosis of the treatment, that is growth hormone replacement, is successful in 80 to 90% of the affected children, and early diagnosis and treatment is very essential for successful treatment. Next, we will be move on nursing management. The nursing management of child with growth hormone deficiency includes identification, establishing the diagnosis, emotional support, and preparation of hormone injections. First one, identification. It is the responsibility of the nurse to identify the children with growth hormone deficiency. In order to identify the children with growth problems or growth hormone deficiency, the nurse must be aware about the signs and symptoms of growth retardation. Then second one, establishing the diagnosis. Establishing the diagnosis by assisting in history collection. Then emotional support. That is emotional support to the parents as soon as the diagnosis is made. Then last one, preparation of hormone injections. These are the nursing management of a child with growth hormone deficiency. First one, identification, then establishing the diagnosis, then emotional support and preparation of hormone injections. Okay, let's conclude our topic. So far we have discussed about introduction, meaning, anatomy and physiology of pituitary gland, then clinical features, pathophysiology, and management of growth hormone deficiency. I hope this lecture video was helpful, and thank you for listening to all.